Joining us now is Virginia State Senator Don Mceachin. He's also the Senate Democratic Caucus Chair. Senator Mceachin, great to have you with us today.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
We figured out something that both yourself and Bob McDonnell have in common. You know what it is?
Last names start with M.
Wow.
Last name started with M, and the other thing is neither of you were invited to speak at CPAC, so you got something in common right there.
Well,
That's true.
The senator and I have something in common as well. We are both American University Eagles. We are proud graduates of that institution, and of course he got his law degree right here in the Commonwealth at the University of Virginia, but proud Eagles, there we are.
There you go, American
Absolutely.
University. I knew there
Absolutely.
was a connection here somewhere.
Exactly.
So, Senator, as I said, fabulous to have you on today, and we want to go right to drones. You've taken a leadership position in creating legislation in the state Senate to regulate the utilization of drones by state, county, and municipal governments. Give us your kind of position on that and whether or not you think Bob McDonnell is going to sign it.
Well, I think he's going to sign a version of it, but let me take your listeners back a little bit to show you, or at least tell you how we got here. With the help of groups as diverse as the ACLU, the Tea Party, liberal Democrats, conservative Republicans, we put forward legislation that would have regulated when drones could be used for law enforcement. And now here's the problem. It's how you look at the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says we have a right to protect ourselves from unreasonable search and seizure. And that's why when a police officer knocks on your door, unless there's an emergency, he can't just barge in without your invitation or a warrant. And so
Right.
essentially what we were saying is drones, there should be some warrant requirement for drones. The police or law enforcement said, wait, there's an exception to the Fourth Amendment, and that is in plain view. For instance, when a police officer pulls you over for speeding, if he sees some drugs in your car, he doesn't have to have a warrant. He can seize the drugs and seize you. That's in plain view. So law enforcement argue that, hey, if a drone's up in the air and it can see something in plain view, we don't need a warrant requirement. And we said in response, you know what? Something tells us the founders never envisioned a robot that could park over your backyard, sniff, smell, and send signals back to home base. So we think that most Virginians and most Americans would expect that that can't be used willy-nilly, but only when there's an emergency or when there's a warrant. We couldn't get on the same page with law enforcement, so what we ended up doing was passing a bill that said you have a 2-year moratorium on it until we can get it together to figure out how to do this and do this right. The governor is looking at some modifications to that bill. In other words, to put in some warrant requirements. At least that's my hope that he's doing. The bill also called for an exception in certain emergencies when there's a amber alert, when there's a blue alert, which deals with police officers in danger in other emergency circumstances. So we've got certain emergencies built in even with the moratorium.
State Senator Mceachin, the bottom line is this, for the average person out there, this whole thing really doesn't feel good to anybody because of the unbelievable intrusion in privacy and the trampling on just your basic liberty. I think we can divide up some of the legal arguments for it, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think the founding fathers ever really envisioned this, and it's tough for me to see that why the governor would not sign the legislation that you have or some variation of it to put these in proper perspective, right?
That is certainly my hope. And again, I just don't think Virginians expect that the government can put a drone in the air and check them out without a warrant requirement. It's just that simple.
It was a great bit of legislation that showed that not only both houses could work together, but both sides of the aisle. You had Todd Gilbert helping to draft the House bill, as you said, which included the language that, with the exception of Amber Alert, conducting a search and rescue operation and so forth, and then your simplification in the Senate bill for deployment for protecting a life, health, or property. And you actually got a pretty good endorsement from the Virginia director of the ACLU, who said this kind of allows everybody to go slow, give you time to show everybody why they would want to require a warrant to use this technology. And I would say congratulations to you guys in Richmond for actually being proactive on this rather than reactive, which is often the case.
It's too often the case. But, thanks to Todd Gilbert and his colleague in the House, Ben Klein, another Republican, we just sat around and said, we need to get out in front of this and not let this, not set up Virginians to have this system abused. So, it was a pleasure working with them. It was a pleasure working with Claire, who's the executive director of the ACLU, and I'm hoping that, again, that the governor does the right thing and as you said, sign a variation of this, because it's important that Virginians and their liberties are preserved.
Oh, absolutely, no question, and it's almost a minor outgrowth of the Patriot Act. And my view has always been, get a judge to sign it, get a signature on it, and if you need to deploy these, like anything else, get a warrant, get a signature. I want to move on, if I can, Senator Mceachin, to Medicaid. Republicans in the State House have said, look, why would we expand a broken program? It's got so many problems with it, coupled with the fact that by expanding it to another 300,000 Virginians, the cost is going to be astronomical. We can't fund it. And when the federal government money runs out, there's $17 billion in debt now. When it runs out, well, the state's economy could absolutely implode. So, I mean, what is the reasonable argument that the Democrats have to have it expanded?
Well, first of all, in the numbers or the facts and theories that I'm about to share with you are not mine. They have been developed by the Senate Finance Committee, which, as you all know, or the staff of the Senate Finance Committee, which, as you all know, is an unbiased and nonpartisan group of people who help us develop policy. Number one, leaving 200 to 400,000 people without any insurance keeps us where we are. In other words, what I'm trying to say is indigent care dollars are going down, dish dollars are going down. That's the federal version of indigent care dollars. That's going down. These folks there has to be some source of payment for these folks when they go to the hospital, because the wonderful thing about this country is that doctors are going to see you regardless of your ability to pay. And then we come together as a state or as a society and figure out how to pay for that care. And for our position is that Medicaid needs to be expanded for that reason alone. Number two, you take that many people, you put them into the healthcare system, they're going to doctors on a regular basis. What you find is that you're going to have to hire more people. Senate Finance estimates anywhere between 30 to 40,000 people would end up being hired, and the taxes off of their incomes obviously is an economic benefit to the Commonwealth. The money that we're saving by the fact that the indigent care dollars are coming down, didn't know we were going to end up talking about this today, but if memory serves, that's around $100 million a year just between what we send to UVA and VCU, MCV alone. So that's a savings for the Commonwealth. The first few years of this, I think it's the first 4 or 5 years of this, is paid for completely by the federal government. So the question is, do we take our Virginia taxpayer dollars back and put it in this program, or do we allow our Virginia taxpayer dollars to go to other states that expand their Medicaid program? And expanding it regardless of partisanship. You've got Republican governors who are doing this. You've got Democratic governors who are doing this. From our point of view, it's a human value position as well as an economic benefit to the Commonwealth.
State Senator Donald Mceachin from Henrico County. If you can hang with us for another 3 minutes or so, we have two bits of follow-up. What does it say about the complexity of the Medicaid program, that it takes a private company like Amerigroup, as successful as they are, to help patients manage their way through the system? And what can be done to maybe revamp the system so that doctors and nurses aren't getting such low payments and, as a result, not seeing Medicaid patients and perhaps even leaving the healthcare system altogether?
Well, starting with the latter question first, that's a question of reimbursement rates. That is, what does the state decide to pay doctors and other healthcare providers for accepting Medicaid patients? That is a state-by-state decision, and Virginia certainly could do better in that regard. Year in and year out, the healthcare providers come into our legislature and argue for those increases. We haven't been very good in that regard, in my judgment, but that is a state-by-state decision and something certainly within our power to fix.
Okay, Senator Mceachin, if we could move to transportation here in our final segment. We got a landmark transportation package on the governor's desk. Hasn't been done in 3 decades. As you know, I was about the only conservative commentator in the galaxy to be behind this thing. This, we expect the governor is going to make some amendments. We think he went out on a limb in order to get behind this thing because it was the right thing to do for Virginia. How flexible is your Democrat state caucus going to be in allowing the governor to put some amendments on it?
Well, the governor certainly has the right to, if he sees fit, to amend the bill, and we have the constitutional authority to deal with those amendments. That being said, I think this is more a position of the Senate rather than Democrat caucus or Republican caucus, because the Senate was very clear with the governor that this is the bill. We've worked very hard to get here. There are things in this bill that no one likes, both on the right and the left. It is very much a compromise.
Right.
For instance, I'm not crazy about the hybrid piece, but I voted for the bill. So we worked hard on this. He was involved in the development of this. I'm sure there are things that he doesn't like, but it's time to sign the bill, and let's move on with fixing the roads and bridges of Virginia.
So your position would be, let's just sign it, get it done, minimal amendments, because at the end of the day, as we have said, and certainly as I have said, it's the bill that everybody loves to hate, and when everybody can't stand a compromise is probably a good thing.
You probably hit the sweet spot, exactly.
There we go. State Senator Donald Mceachin joining us here on the John Frederick Show. He is, of course, the chair of the Senate Democratic Caucus in Richmond. We can't thank you enough for the time, and actually we hope that this is not the last time we hear from you, sir. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you about some very key issues this morning.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm only a phone call away.